At the family dinner, I was repeatedly told that I only know how to adjust and have achieved nothing. I did not argue. A few days later, when the truth came out, those same people were afraid even to look at me because the quiet girl had settled the accounts. When my aunt laughed and said, "You only know how to adjust. You haven't really achieved anything," the room filled with laughter. It was the same old dining room in my parents' house on the south side of Chicago, the same wooden table where, at every family dinner, someone reminded me of how far behind I was. My pasta was cooling on the plate in front of me, and that sentence echoed in my ears, the one I had probably heard hundreds of times in my life. Adjusting is a skill, but you're stuck there. I didn't say anything. I twirled the pasta with my fork, took a bite, and stayed quiet. My cousin started talking about his new car. My sister mentioned her upcoming promotion. My mother, as always, said, "She's just sensitive. She takes things to heart." No one asked why I changed 2 buses every day to get to work. No one asked why I split my medical bills into monthly payments. No one noticed how I had rebuilt myself after losing my job the year before. I got home late that night. My apartment was small. 1 bedroom, thin walls, and the constant sound of the neighbor downstairs watching TV. I kicked off my shoes, dropped my bag on the couch, and opened my laptop. There was a notification in my inbox from work, where I was on contract in the accounts department. The subject line was blunt: "Internal audit, please review." When I opened the file, my eyes froze. Numbers, names, and a pattern that was wrong. Very wrong. I didn't close the file. I looked again. And again. Some payments were shown on paper as going to suppliers, but in reality the money was going somewhere else. I started taking notes, saving screenshots, keeping myself calm. Maybe this was what everyone called adjusting. Staying quiet long enough to understand what was really happening. The next day I spoke to my boss, Karen. She was straightforward, always holding a cup of coffee, always on time. I placed the file in front of her and said, "I think there's a problem here." She looked it over without drama, asked a few questions, and said, "I'm glad you brought this up." In that one sentence was the respect I had never received at that dining table. Within days the audit began. Names surfaced. A supplier that turned out to be fake. A signature belonging to my cousin's closest friend. The same friend who bragged at every dinner about how well he had set up his business. I didn't call anyone. I didn't warn anyone. I just kept doing my job the way I always had. That same week my mother called. "There's dinner again on Sunday. You'll come, right?" I said, "Yes." There was a familiar worry in her voice, like she knew silence eventually learns how to speak. Sunday came. The same table. The same people. But the air had changed. My cousin was unusually quiet. My aunt kept sipping water. Then there was a knock at the door. 2 people walked in, introduced themselves as company representatives, and got straight to the point. They named names, asked questions, and requested documents. Silence filled the room, the kind of silence that had once belonged only to me. My cousin looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Fear sat plainly in his eyes. My aunt tried to speak, but no words came out. My mother squeezed my hand, maybe realizing that none of this was a coincidence. I didn't look at anyone. I stared at the edge of the table, the same wood where my dreams had once been placed, and laughed away. After everyone left, my mother asked quietly, "Why didn't you tell us?" I answered, "You didn't ask." It wasn't an accusation. Just the truth. I had learned that not everything needs to be shouted. Some things demand accountability, and accountability arrives on its own time. The following month I was offered a permanent position at the same company. The salary wasn't high, but it was steady. I paid off 1 credit card balance and made a plan for the rest. One day, standing at the bus stop, a woman I occasionally saw said, "You always look strong." I smiled and said, "I just do my work." She laughed like she understood. Things changed in my family. No one called me adjusting anymore. The silence belonged to them now. It didn't make me happy, but it brought me peace. For me, revenge wasn't about humiliating anyone. It was about giving myself the respect I had always deserved. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I had closed my laptop that night. Maybe everything would have stayed the same. But I didn't. I saw the numbers, understood them, and settled the accounts. And maybe that was the moment I stopped adjusting and started living. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these real human stories alive. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for standing with voices that choose truth over silence.